Should you write a novel driven by plot or driven by character? Should. What a terrible word. In this video, I'm going to unpack the commonly held belief that stories are either plot or character driven and give you my take on where that dichotomy comes from. And then we'll talk about what you should, yes, I said it, be writing, if you want my opinion. Let's go. So I've talked about this in another video before. I used to find the term literary fiction super intimidating. First, I assumed I was supposed to be writing literary fiction since that's the kind of fiction that wins awards, that gets reviewed in the New York Times, that makes people think you're really, really smart. But often when I would read books categorized as literary fiction, I would feel underwhelmed. I mean, I didn't necessarily think they were bad, they just weren't my favorite because they often lacked a plot, you know, and I wondered, was there something inherently lowbrow about plot? Plus, couldn't you have a great plot and great character development? It seemed like a lot of the books that I really loved did both of those things. So I did a deep dive. I read a bunch of novels in all genres and categories with the intent to understand more deeply why they were categorized the way they were. And what I learned are a few things that I'm gonna share with you in today's video. The first thing is that plot-driven books can have great character development regardless of genre. A commonly held belief is that plot-driven books are defined as commercial and that character-driven books are defined as literary. But things are actually way, way messier than this. First of all, because genre is not a science. Your book's genre is an art. It is a marketing art. And if you have a good plot and great character development, your books are still likely to be categorized as a particular commercial genre, like women's fiction, because that's what sells books. And remember, genre is a marketing art. Jodi Picoult's books, for example, are categorized as women's fiction because that's how booksellers sell her books. It's not because she doesn't have strong character development. Here's a quote from Jodi about writing. She says, "I was given a choice when I started publishing to be pushed toward either a commercial track or a more literary one, and I decided that I'd rather be read by a wider readership, which is one definition of commercial fiction. The size of the print run wasn't going to affect the fact that I planned to write the best book I could. And it still hasn't affected that fact 20 years later." End quote. Don't rely on genre to determine whether a book is plot-driven or character-driven. Probably it's both, and which it's more of or less of is a question that only you can answer as a reader. What keeps you turning the pages? Because that's what's driving it in your case. The second point I want to make is that the plot versus character-driven distinction is largely made up. Okay, this is kind of what I said a moment ago, but mostly books are both. And the best books are certainly both. Novels I have absolutely loved lately include Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, Vladimir by Julia May Jonas, and a memoir I've loved recently is Solito by Javier Zamora. All three of these stories are propelled forward both by their characterization and their plot-driven momentum, meaning I was turning the pages in part to see what happens next, and that's all that plot-driven means. So the distinction is often a falsehood. It just doesn't really exist. Good books do both. Before I get into my last point about character-driven versus plot-driven stories, quick invitation. I have a free private group for writers working on books where once a month I host a live event where I plan out the first third of a new novel from scratch. It's super fun. It's like improv meets novel writing. And you can join this event, 30,000 words in 30 minutes, watch Mary plan the first third of a novel from scratch, at the link below this video. Okay, back to it. The third thing I want to share with you is that I think plot gets a bad rap because of classism. So I was super curious about why plot gets a bad rap. Why would readers who turn the pages in order to find out what happens next and the writers who write for them be any less impressive than other readers and writers who don't read for plot or who don't write good plot? And the conclusion I landed on was classism. I mean, when something has mass appeal, like a good plot, maybe by definition it can't be good. Readers as a group, we love plot. You know, plot is the everyman's language. A story with a really good plot crosses social boundaries. Meanwhile, the great irony is that if you can write good characterization and good plot, you can actually write better fiction, in my view. You know, it's just as fulfilling and challenging on the deep levels that literary fiction can touch, but it's also engaging and fun to read. I like to want to turn the pages so that I can see what happens next. I sometimes tell writers I work with there is nothing unimpressive about plot. In fact, as a writer, I have personally found plot one of the most difficult skills to master. And that's why, by the way, that I created my 4 notebooks method to help writers with plot when they're working on novels. So if you made it this far in the video, I'm guessing that you are writing a book or want to write a book. And if so, I have something for you. A few years ago, I created the 4 notebooks method, my process for handwriting a novel across 4 notebooks. This is my strategy to map out your story structure in a way that doesn't lock you into an outline or suck all the freedom out of the writing process. So if you'd like to learn this method and get a free digital template for writing your novel, go to the link below this video. To get the template, you just have to apply for my program, The Book Incubator. It's only 2 questions to apply. It'll take you under 5 minutes, and you'll get the template right away. No pressure to join or anything. I'll just send it your way. So click below, tell me a little bit about you and your book or your book idea. I'm excited to hear from you.